girls. Today I want to take a few minutes and talk to you about a reading strategy that is part of our CAFE program. CAFE stands for Comprehension, Accuracy, Fluency, and Expanded Vocabulary. Today we're going to look at a comprehension strategy. When you're reading a book, you want to make sure that you are comprehending what is happening in the story, which means that you understand what is happening in the story. So in order to do that, one of the best ways is to make connections as you are reading. So sometimes you might make a connection at the very beginning of the story, you might make a connection in the middle of the story, or you might make a connection towards the end of the story. Anytime throughout your reading of that story or listening to a story, you want to think about, what does this book remind me of? And there are three types of connections that you might make. So it says making connections. My connection can be, so the first kind is what we call text to self connections. So this reminds me of my own life. So as you're reading, if something reminds you of something that has happened to you in your life or an experience you have had, we call that a text to self connection. The second type of connection that you might make is a text to text connection. So this reminds me of another book I've read or a movie I've watched. We call that a text to text connection. So it might be, if you're reading a book about an elephant and you've read another book that involved an elephant, you might say, hey, this reminds me of the book called, and the name of the book. Finally, the third type of connection that you might make is called a text to world connection. This reminds me of something that happened or is happening in the world. This one's a little bit trickier to do. Most of the time, second graders make text to self connections and text to text connections, but sometimes you might make a text to world connection. So today you are going to listen to a story in Epic, and when you are done, we're going to ask you to write a connection that you made while reading the book. So a connection is just something that the book reminds you of. On the sheet that you have at the end of this Google slide presentation, you might only fill in one connection, and that's okay. You might write a text to self connection, or a text to text connection, or a text to world connection. If you made more than one, great, you can fill in more than one. But if you only made one connection while listening to this book, that's okay. You just fill it in the appropriate spot. Okay? Have fun.